Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, Abby Pattern Drafts. It's good to be with you here again. I've missed you guys so much. I've been a bit under the weather and that's why I've been away. But I'm back here, thank God I'm doing better. Thank you for the comments, I've been seeing them and I really appreciate, these comments keep me going and I'm really grateful. If this is your first time of seeing my face, you're also welcome. Basically, what you'll be learning on this channel is how to pattern draft, how to cut, and how to sew. I'll be showing you tips and tricks on different ways on how to make those difficult sewing very easy. So you're actually at the right place. So for today, we'll be talking about how to pattern draft a basic sleeve. And it's going to entail both for short sleeve and for long sleeve. Let's dive right into it. So the measurement we'll be working with for the short sleeve is 10 inches for the full length. The length of the bicep is 4 inches. When you want to know your bicep length, you place your tape right at, I think I've one of my videos that explained how to measure the shoulder length. And I made mention of going 1 inch away from the bone on this shoulder. You go out from it 1 inch. So right from that 1 inch that you're going out, but that's where you start measuring your sleeve length.
To know where you're going to measure the circumference of your bicep, what you should do is look at your armpits. Beneath your armpits, measure 2 inches downwards, and then that line where that 2 inches falls to is where your bicep is.
So for some people, it might be 5 inches, it might be 3, it might be 3.5 or 4.5. So you actually need to take that measurement. So I'm working with 4 inches because for me, it's 4 inches. So if yours is 4 inches, go ahead to use 4 inches. If it's not, then use the appropriate measurement. So that's 4 inches for the bicep length. Now the round, that's where that 4 inches is, you need to take the circumference of that position, that place of the bicep. Make sure that 2 fingers are in between the tape and make sure that it's not too tight. Make a movement around that place so you know that, okay, when you're wearing the dress, it won't, be too tight on your arm. So for me, I have 11 inches. If I want it to be very firm, but I want a bit of space, so I'll make it 11.5. 11.5 is fine. But if it's for a free dress, remember I'm making a fitted basic sleeve. Now, if the style of sleeve you're making is not fitted, if it's a free sleeve, then you don't need to use this measurement. This one will just be like a guide. Then you add some inches to it, accommodating that style. So I'll be using 11.5 for that. Then the round sleeve. Round sleeve means the length, after you've measured the length of the sleeve. So I am making the length of the sleeve 10 inches. So 10 inches is somewhere here. So where this length is, that's where I'll be measuring my round sleeve. Exactly where that 10 inches is. And I'll fold my hand like this so that it creates that fullness around that area. I put 2 fingers in, as I did on the bicep, and I'll turn my tape around like so. So this is 11 inches. So I'm going to be using 11 inches for my round short sleeve. Some of the tools you would need in drafting this basic sleeve: your French curve and your ruler, your tape rule, of course, and the measurements you're working with. The first thing you want to do, like I've always said, is to start with a beginning line. That's a top line, an horizontal top line, which is going to be like your guide. So this line I have made here now is this line here is going to be positioned at this place of your hand. If you look at what I'm wearing now, there's a connection from this region here. It means that if I'm taking my measurements round, I need to divide my measurement by 2. So this area is where we're going to measure the full length of the sleeve. I said I'm working with 10 inches as the full length. I'll place my tape from here, 10 inches. inch, I'll consider the half inch I'm going to use to connect the sleeve to the bodice or to the dress. So that half inch, I'm going to add it. So instead of 10 inches, I'll be marking 10.5. Then if it's a sleeve, I'm going to fold. If I'm going to, fold that, the hem of the sleeve inwards, that's under, I'm going to add the folding allowance as well as the sewing allowance. So 1.5 inch should be enough for that, or 2 inches rather. So that will give me a total of 12.5. So now I know that this is where the length of my sleeve ends. But originally, if I'm going to take away those folding allowances, it doesn't really end here. It ends on 10.5 because I'm going to be taking away half inch from here. So I'll make a line on that 10.5 downwards. I'll do the same on this other part here. That's where the hem ends. So this is my folding allowance. I'm also going to rule that half inch, and I'll make an horizontal line, and I'll make a vertical line at that region as well, downwards. Now for my bicep length, that's where the fullest part of my arm is. So it's 4 inches, that's my bicep length. I would measure 4 inches from this line here, not from this line. Remember, this is just sewing allowance to attach it to the body of the dress or the bodice. So I am measuring from here 4 inches. Like I said, it could be more, it could be less, depending on your own measurements. 4 inches. And then I would make a vertical line as well, downwards, like so. I'll be naming the lines now so that we will know what we're working on. So this is my bicep line. This is my center sleeve. This line here is my center sleeve, which I said is also this line here. If I were to iron this dress I am wearing, you would see the middle. I mean, from here, the roundness of this part, the center, the middle, that is where this line is. So now we'll have to work with our measurements now. So my bicep, for example, when I did a video on drafting a basic bodice. Watch that video. I'll put the description so you can go ahead to watch it right after watching this video. So for us to, when we were drafting on that video, I explained for you to get your armhole length, I explained that you divide your bust measurement by 6 and add 1.5 to it to get your armhole length. Now, if you're going to also be working with that same measurement on the sleeve, because you actually want it to tally. You don't want your sleeve to have a different measurement bigger than the armhole you have on the bodice or on the dress. So you want everything, all the measurements to, to intertwine and flow together, because you're working with the same measurements of the same person. Remember, you're going to fix this sleeve to that armhole curve. That curve you have on that bodice, this sleeve has to fit into that curve. So now how do you go about that? You use the same basic formula we used in drafting that curve, that armhole curve. We used the bust circumference of the bust measurement. We divided it by 6 and we added 1.5 to it. So my bust, for example, is 34 inches. If I am to divide it by 6 and I add 1.5 to it, I should have approximately 7.2. And that was exactly the length I used when I was drafting my basic bodice armhole length. the tip of this place is positioned right at this place on your shoulder. That's the center. So I'll be measuring that same measurement. I'll be placing my tape right at the bicep line, like so, downwards. And I'll be marking 7.2. So that same measurement I would measure it here. I mean the bicep length. I will measure it here. I would place my tape from here. Please make sure your tape is well positioned, straight. You shouldn't, bend, or don't make it bend. Just make sure that it is straight. And I'll mark the center of it. The center is here. So what you want to do now is to use your French curve. And now your French curve should be positioned this way, not this way. Your French curve should be positioned this way. So what you want to do is to connect from this line here, which is like your armhole line. You want to connect it from this line to this point here, like so. You want it to touch the line as well as touch here. So please make sure you don't bend the curve in the French curve in such a funny way. Don't overdo it and don't underdo it. Just position it like so, slightly touching the from the tip of the sleeve. You're curving it to come and touch that point you just made here, like so. And the next thing we'll be doing, now you'll be turning your curve in the opposite direction. Remember, we did like this and we positioned it like this. Now what you want to do next is to turn your curve, your French curve, the other way, like this, and position it in such a way that from this point here, you will be connecting it to this point here, like so. Don't do it too much and don't underdo it. Make sure it is touching, so you have a very smooth, nice curve. You can actually do this without using a French curve. You can use freehand. As a matter of fact, I actually prefer to use my freehand in drafting this curve. But as a beginner, you want to do well with your French curve because it gives you a smooth curve. So for me, because I'm used to it, so I can actually use my freehand. I already know the shape and the curve I am looking for. So I can just quickly curve it and I'll get exactly the same curve as this. But as a beginner, I would advise you use your French curve. So the next thing we want to do is to measure the round sleeve. And our round sleeve measurement, when we measured it, was 11 inches. If you want to divide 11 inches by 2, if you divide 11 inches by 2, you should end up with 5.5. So that's what you should be measuring on this round sleeve. Okay, I didn't indicate, sorry. Let me indicate round sleeve. So I'm measuring 5.5. Like so. And then I would connect from this point here to this point here with my ruler. Now we have our basic sleeve curve. So this part here, obviously, is where we'll be connecting to the armhole curve of your bodice or your dress. This is where this part here will fit into that curve you have on your basic bodice or the dress you are making. So for this folding allowance, if I was drafting this on a pattern paper, this is on the board, and I actually wanted us to have a clear understanding and a clear view. That's why I'm drafting it on the board. But if I was drafting on my pattern paper, before I make this mark here, I would have folded this inwards, like beneath the sleeve. From this point here, I would make a fold so that When I'm drafting this, when I'm drawing this line, I already have the other line because it wouldn't be straight. If I bend this part beneath this place, by the time I open it up, I'll end up with something like this. Because from here to here, because this is 2 inches. If I measure 2 inches from this point to this point, remember that's where I'll be sewing, making my stitch on. If I measure 2 inches from this point to this point, from here, this part is wider than this part here. If I don't consider that, I would have the wideness of this when I'm making a stitch, it wouldn't be enough. So you have to put that into consideration, because you're not going to be making a stitch right on this edge here. This edge is just the tip. Where you'll be making a stitch after you fold in will be you'll be making a stitch somewhere around here, like this. This is where your machine will sew on. So if I had gone ahead to just connect it like this, maybe, or make it straight, it wouldn't fit into this part when I fold it in. I hope we understand what I'm trying to explain here. You can go ahead to do a practice on it and you would understand what I'm trying to explain here. So that's that for a short sleeve. So going ahead, we're going to be drafting a long sleeve. It's basically the same thing. All we're doing is just to extend the length of the sleeve, and we'll be adding one additional measurement, which is the shoulder to the elbow region. That is the shoulder to the elbow length. We'll be putting that into consideration for a long sleeve, as well as the full length of the long sleeve and the round sleeve measurements. Please take note of this part here. This line here, which is the center sleeve, it is on fold, meaning that it has been folded into 2. So before you even start pattern drafting, make sure that once you start, okay, this is what I mean. This is my pattern, for instance. I want to draft my basic sleeve. This is the paper like this. I will not just start drafting from this edge here. I'll have to fold like this. Fold it like this. So this place is sealed. This is what I mean that it is on fold. It's folded now into 2. Now I can draft. I can start drafting like so. This is how my fabric or my pattern should be positioned like. So something like this. So this is the center sleeve. So whatever I'm drafting should come here like this. Just basically, I hope with this explanation you understand what I mean by also. So don't do that mistake, because I find that many beginners usually make that mistake, and at the end of the day they waste their fabric and have to start all over again. Another thing you should take note of is, if you look at this, for instance, let me cut this so that we would understand what I mean. So now I have drafted a sample . So this is a sample sleeve. You see this part here? This part here is for the front, and this other side here is for the back. So for us not to be confused, I would say front. Let me indicate front and back. So now the front part usually is goes in more. If you look at it, then we have shoulder blades on our back, but we don't have shoulder blades at the front. So if you don't take out some inches off this front part, you will have those. You see some dresses that some tailors make and it's not really fitted on the body. So for you not to have that, you have to take away at least like ½ inch from the front part. Please, this what I'm explaining now is just I'm referring to just the front pattern. So I'm going to open up my sleeve like this. I'm going to rule a line now. What I'm doing, I'm ruling a line at the center sleeve. Center sleeve. So this is the center sleeve. I'm opening it up because I don't want, at the end of the day, when I've shaped my ½ inch inwards, I don't want it to affect the back, because if I fold it like this, I might make a mistake and just cut both of them together. So I need to open it up. because I want what I want to do to just reflect on just the front part. So what I'm doing right now is, let me explain it on the board. On this part here, just go up. Let's say like 2 inches upwards. On that 2 inches, you go inwards by ½ inch, just for the front pattern, and then you use your French curve to connect from this point here to here, and you turn your French curve the same way you did initially. So you want to have a smooth curve. Go ahead to use your hand to smoothen it if you're not comfortable using the French curve. All you're trying to do is just to have a smooth curve. So now this part here is for the back, and this one is for the front. Okay, there's something you should take note of on this part here. I measured 2 inches upwards. That's because I marked the center. That's the center of this point here to this point here. So for you, it could be less or it could be more. So just take note of this point here and this point here and mark the center. So don't say, oh, 2 inches and it must be 2 inches for all measurements. So just to clarify that. And also, the reason why we took ½ inch in, like I said earlier, is to prevent those bulges that comes out, when you finish making your dress. So you want to remove that excess fabric bulging out from the dress. That's just basically the reason why we took in ½ inch in on just the front part. And I said it doesn't apply to the back part, because the back pattern, we tend to have this shoulder blades that we actually need that allowance. That ½ inch we're removing from the front part, we actually need it at the back sleeve. So that's for that. Now for the long sleeve, all you need to do for the long sleeve is just to we're going to be taking off this line, because we don't need it for this long sleeve pattern we want to draft now. We'll also remove this short sleeve length, because we're not going to be working with it. What we'll be working with is the long sleeve length, the full length of the long sleeve, the length of the elbow, that's this point here, to the elbow, the length. You have to take that measurement. So for me, when I took that measurement, I had like 13 inches from this point here to the elbow point, and then from this point here to the full length of the long sleeve, for me it's 23 inches. So that's what we'll be working with shortly. If you've watched this video up to this point, it means you love what you're watching. So please do well to give it a thumbs up, share this video as well, and also if you haven't subscribed, click on the subscribe button and let's continue. So for this part, we're going to be taking off this part. So I've taken away those lines that we don't need for this long sleeve pattern. So but we'll still be working with this one, the bicep line. It all still remains the same except for those 2 lines. So now I'm taking my elbow length measurements, and I have like 13. So I'll be marking 13 here. Remember, I placed my tape from this point, not from the ½ inch sewing allowance. So that's 13. If I'm going to measure the full length from here to here, it's 23, but my board isn't wide enough, so I will just end the full length at 21. Then I'll extend my horizontal line to that point, like so, and also make a vertical line downwards. So that's this will now be where my long sleeve round sleeve The R is for round. That's the short form, round sleeve. So now what I need to do now is to take down my elbow. This point here, I would extend it down just like I did on the round sleeve. I'll measure half of my round elbow. Please, when you're taking the elbow measurement, the round elbow, make sure that your arm is folded in this manner. If you take your round elbow like this, the dress would be so uncomfortable. Usually it will be too tight. You won't be able to fold your hands like this. So it's just to consider that allowance, so that anytime you bend your arm, you would not allow the dress to feel like a bandage. So when I did that, for me it's 11 inches. So this is comfortable for me. So you can go right ahead to make your own measurement and divide it by 2 and place that measurement on this line. So I'm going to name it elbow line. Elbow line. So 11 divided by 2 is 5.5. I'll take that measurement here. So for my round sleeve, the round wrist is 9 inches. You can make it, you can reduce that measurement, because I'm using 9 inches because I'm not going to be placing an opening. So I did 9 inches in such a way that when I want to take off the dress without an opening, it would be comfortable for me. So, but if you're going to having an opening, just like the one I'm wearing like this, you can use a smaller measurement, like exactly the round wrist, and maybe just give a little, put 2 fingers in like so, and you could be working with 7 inches, you could be working with 8, but I did 9 so that I can easily take off the dress off me. So that's 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. So your round sleeve measurement should be divided by 2. Your round elbow should be divided by 2. Your bicep measurement should also be divided by 2. So round sleeve is 4.5. 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. So I'll be connecting it. So I'm not going to be working with this mark here because the measurement has changed. I'll connect from this point to this point. And then from this point to this point. So you want to use your French cord to smoothen this area well, so you have a very smooth curve around that elbow area. From this pattern, this basic pattern, you can actually build other styles, other sleeve styles from it. This is just the basic. So when you hear basic, it means that okay, you can use that to build other styles. So that's what you want to do. Anytime you want to create styles, make sure you draft a basic sleeve. Then from there, you progress into designs, the various designs of sleeves. If you understood how we drafted the short sleeve, I mean the hem part, we actually folded the folding allowance beneath the pattern, and before we did our cut. That's the same thing you should do on this round sleeve. So if you're adding folding allowance of 1.5 or 2 inches, make sure that before you cut this part here, you should fold it beneath the pattern and then you cut. And you can actually do this directly on your fabric if you've gotten used to pattern drafting and your cuts are now very straight and your patterns are straight. But for beginners, I would advise you draft it first on a pattern paper, then you transfer to your fabric, so that if you have any error, you can correct and make adjustments so that your fabric is not wasted. Okay, so remember we've not added sewing allowance to the bottom of the sleeve, so you can add 1/2 inch or 1 inch. I usually add the inches depending on the sewing allowance I've added on the dress or on the bodice. So if on the dress you added 1 inch, please go ahead to add 1 inch. If on the dress you added 1.5 inch sewing allowance, then you would add 1.5 inch sewing allowance. So that means this will be extending to this place, to this point here, and then we connect based on the sewing allowance. Because at the end of the day, when we make our stitch, we would not, when we make our stitch will be directly on this part here, and here will be the allowance in case we need to increase. So that's it for the long sleeve. All right, thank you for watching. Please do well to give this video a thumbs up, because it actually helps YouTube recommend this video to other people that are in need of this kind of tutorial. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please click on the subscribe button. It actually doesn't cost anything. I'm not charging you for subscription, it's free. Do you have any questions on this? I want to know, right in the comment section, and I'll be right there to answer all your questions. See you in my next video.